Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. This is Robert Chappell, Executive Editor of Madison365, with your daily update for um, November 23rd. I'm not sure what whistle you're referring to. Did I whistle? Oh, yes, I was whistling. That's really funny. Uh, I forget. I'm still getting used to this new system here. And the old one, if it was playing a video clip over me, it would like mute everything. This one I have to actually like mute it and unmute it myself. And yesterday or the day before yesterday, I'd forgotten to unmute myself. So I was talking for like a minute, nobody could hear me. So now I've been erring on the side of unmuting myself. And then while that was playing, I was like whistling to myself. So thank you, Joel, for letting me know you could hear me whistling to myself that whole time. Still figuring this out, you guys. All right. So the news today is mostly pretty good, and I'm going to give you that with a grain of salt. We have 3,095 new cases today, which, a couple months ago would have been backbreaker a lot. But now that is much better than we've been. That's the fourth, I want to say that's the fourth straight day, maybe fifth straight day that we've actually gone down. No, more than that. More than that. Give me 1 second. I think we hit our record last week on Tuesday, where we hit nearly 8,000 new cases, 7,989 new cases. And we've basically gone down every day since then. Which is great. And we've gone down by quite a bit in the last 2 days, especially. Now, part of that is, no, I'm sorry, Wednesday last week, the 18th, is when we hit our high. So 1, 2, 3, 4. This is our sixth straight day going down. But we've gone up by a lot. We went from almost 8,000 to 6,600 to 6,400 to 6,200 to 3,500 to now under 3,100. Now, part of that is due to decreasing testing. That's definitely part of the reason that's going down. You have more tests, you're going to find more results. If fewer tests, you're going to find fewer results. That's just how it goes. So that's why we look at the percentage of positive tests. Like how of those, so we're doing fewer tests, but of those, how many are positive? And today, that number was 25.2, which is lower than it has been. Yesterday was 23.5, so a little bit higher than yesterday. But even 2 days ago, while the number of cases was continuing to come down, the positive test rate for the day was still 34.8, so that's still pretty high. Now, the overall effect of this is that our positive test rate for the week is now 29.3. It has been over 30 for basically the entire month of November. Going back to November 1st, it was at 29.5. It has been over 30 since then. It is now the 23rd. So to be back under 30 is great for that measure. Which, in theory, is independent of the number of tests. So it is, that's the way to get around that whole thing about more tests equals more results, fewer tests equals fewer results. The percentage doesn't really matter how many tests you're doing. Now, that said, the more tests you do and the more broadly you test people, in theory, you would catch more people who are less likely to be infected. So increased testing should actually drive the positive test rate down. It doesn't always work that way, but it should. So the fact that we're doing fewer tests and the positive test rate is still coming down is actually pretty good news. We've had a very good week, basically, going back to last week, Wednesday. this like 5-day period since Wednesday of last week has been pretty positive. And it's not just a coincidence. It's not, I should say this, it is not only a coincidence that there's been less testing over the weekend. That's part of it. That is part of it. That's my grain of salt. That these good news numbers I'm giving you right now are due in part to lower testing and to lower capacity to process results. And I think that might continue this whole week because it's a holiday week, right? That's especially true when we look at fatalities. Fatalities take a while to be processed and to be reported. And it's, to get a fatality, when somebody dies of COVID, getting that person's information into the state database system is not the highest priority, which is understandable. Like, you have other priorities when somebody passes away like that. So that has to go through like a medical examiner's office and be, confirmed with the county, confirmed with the state, etc. So I wouldn't be surprised if our death totals for this week are a little bit artificially low, and that will make up for it later. Last weekend, like on Sunday and Monday last week, we reported only 12 deaths each of those 2 days, and then suddenly on Tuesday we reported 92. Right? So it's not like 12 people died Monday and 92 people died Tuesday. It's just that's how much of the sort of the paperwork was processed regarding those fatalities. So that's what I think we're seeing now. Yesterday we technically had 0 deaths reported. We actually had 6, but then we had 6, taken out of the data because they were erroneous. And today we have 6 more, which is a pretty low number, which is good. I like to see a low number. I'm a little bit holding my breath, thinking tomorrow we're going to have like 100. It's possible that we've been experiencing deaths this whole week, but they're just not making their way into the data yet because, it's kind of getting to be a holiday and it's over the weekend and that kind of stuff. So I will tell you, though, where those deaths took place. The 6 deaths that we report today were in Wood, Washington, Pierce, Kenosha, Grant, and Crawford County. Each reported 1 death. In terms of the actual cases, once again, it's heavily the rural counties that are getting hit hardest right now in terms of new cases. When you look at per capita, the pure number of cases, the highest was Milwaukee County, 832. That's what you'd expect. But that's only 88 cases per 100,000 residents, which is still kind of a lot, to be honest with you. But Taylor County today has 141 new cases per 100,000 residents. Buffalo County is 136. Crawford County is 134. Those are pretty high numbers, and those are very rural counties. Barron, Wood, Rusk, Douglas, Fond du Lac, Polk, Pierce, Richland, and Lincoln all have more new cases per capita today than Milwaukee County does. That's where it's really burning hot right now, are those rural counties. Let's see what else we got. So I think, so the death toll now in Wisconsin, 3,011. Again, I think, cross your fingers. Maybe I have no reason to believe the deaths will go down because deaths are reflecting what happened 4 weeks ago when things were just continuing to ramp up really fast. So I'm pretty sure we'll have more deaths to report tomorrow and Wednesday. So kind of hold your breath, keep your fingers crossed. I'm pretty sure I've heard at least one other expert say we'll hit 5,000 deaths by the end of December. So, but right now we're at 3,011. Our 7-day average of deaths now is 51.7. That was 54 a couple of days ago. So this few days of fewer deaths being reported has brought that down a little bit. So I anticipate that number to go back up during the course of the week. Now today, hospitalizations are actually going back up again. They came down quite a bit just over the past 4 days, like several hundred. We were over almost to 2,200 at one point a few days ago. Now we're at 1,999 currently hospitalized. It's 11 more than yesterday, so not a big increase. But, you see 4 straight days of decreases, and then you start to go back up. You don't have that. But that's still 275 fewer than a week ago. So that's how far we went down. Even though we went back up a little bit, we're still way lower in terms of the number of people hospitalized than we were a week ago. Now, of those, 438 are in ICUs. That's 10 more than yesterday. In terms of beds, like available beds, statewide, it seemed to be doing okay in terms of, again, just in terms of the number of beds. Right now, ICU beds, out of 1,466, there's 207 available. Let me do some math real quick. The hospitals right now are about 85% capacity, which is better than it has been. In terms of bed count, bed count is not the only measure. There's also a question of staffing. Do these hospitals have enough staff? Do they have enough PPE? That kind of stuff. That kind of stuff is not really quantified in this table that I look at from the Wisconsin Hospital Association. And there's no easy answer either. Like some places are better than others. Some places are doing okay. Some places are not. The alternative care facility, which is the sort of colloquially called the field hospital in Milwaukee, is all the way down to 13 patients, which means that was at 23 the day before yesterday. Now that place is designed for people to go when they're already on the mend, when they're starting to improve. They're going to be discharged soon, but they need maybe like a couple more days of inpatient care and of oxygen and all that kind of stuff and medications. So they're being moved to that facility in Milwaukee County to finish their stay so that they can free up a bed at another hospital. So the fact that that's gone from 23 down to 13, that means 10 people have been discharged and not replaced, which is that's really good news. I hate to, without being too doom and gloom about it, it's also possible that the hospital population is decreasing as people are dying. Certainly some of those who are no longer hospitalized have been discharged and some have passed away. We don't know, right? It's hard to tell on a day-to-day basis how many of each. You know what I mean? So we'll keep an eye on the death numbers, but right now it looks like hospital capacities are doing okay. Hospitalization numbers are remaining low. We might see that go back up again. So we will keep an eye on it. Again, the reason things are going in the right direction remains a little bit mysterious to me. It could be a couple things. It could be a combination of things. It could be, like I said, it could be just a data thing, that not as much data is being reported. Although that wouldn't explain hospitalizations going down. It could be that things got so bad in October and the first half of November that people have really are starting to take it seriously again. Like we kind of got complacent in June when things were 3% positive test rate, 400 cases a day or whatever. And it's, then we start to get complacent and then it goes up again and then school starts and we're not paying attention. And then suddenly we're in this crisis. And now people are starting to remember that we're in a crisis and take it seriously. And you're seeing this in retail, right? You're seeing people stocking up again to hunker down, right? What that means to me is people are starting to take it seriously again and kind of returning to that mindset we had back in March and April. Which, if enough people did that, even if some people, you still see pictures of people in bars and some people are still having their birthday parties and all that stuff. Even if some people are doing that, if enough people go the other way, it could actually bend the curve. So it could be that. It could be that people are legitimately, genuinely taking it seriously. It could also be people really want to go to Thanksgiving. They want to feel good about going to Thanksgiving. So they're like really super behaving themselves for 2 weeks before Thanksgiving. and then they'll go to Thanksgiving, have a great time, and let up again, and we'll see the curve go whoop, back up. I know a lot of people are planning on having Thanksgivings. We are not. I mean, I've hosted Thanksgiving for my family for 20 years, and we're not doing it this year. And that hurts, but that's what we have to do. I have a question from Sarah. I'm curious about pop-up clinics. We told there was one in Verona. The group is not licensed and will not be getting a permit, and she should go to the Alliance Center. That is not something I've heard of. That is kind of wild. Sarah, I would love it if you were to email me some more information about that. Where did you see the pop-up clinic advertised? I'm going to put my email address in the... anybody can email this. If you have news, tips, or stories you want to see, just email me there. Or you can just direct message Madison365 on Facebook. I would love to know who was trying to set up a pop-up clinic. That sounds pretty sketchy and shady. Again, that's not something I'd heard of, but I would love to be able to look into it a little more. If you could send some more information my way. Okay, that's all I have for COVID. If you have any other questions, drop it in there. I'm going to talk a little bit about a couple other news items that I think you should be aware of that are on the website right now, Madison365.org. There's a new episode of Black Oxygen this morning. That's our interview podcast that Angela Russell hosts for us about being Black in Wisconsin. And the guest today is Cedric Johnson, who's been a friend of Madison365 for many years. He is he keeps getting promoted, so I can never remember his actual title. But he's at Madison Gas and Electric. He's like their community services manager. He does a lot of the community outreach, and MG&E is really committed to community stuff, community development, economic development, and Cedric handles a lot of that. So that's a really fascinating conversation that he has with Angela today about removing his own mask of his own identity, surviving and thriving, and then also getting into the energy thing. And a lot of people are having challenges with their energy bills right now. So what is MG&E doing to address that kind of thing? So give that a listen. That's available on the website. Thank you, Sarah, for that link. I will check it out. So it's on the website, but also you can any Spotify, Stitcher, Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcast, just search Black Oxygen and you'll find it. Also on the website today, Naomi Wolf did a bit of a dive on Black turnout in the election. It is, it was sort of assumed that Black and brown voters would turn out or did turn out in higher numbers in Wisconsin. They did turn out in higher numbers elsewhere in 2020 versus 2016. But based on the sort of the limited data we have now, which is not full data, it's basically exit poll data, which is not, we're finding out now, is less reliable than it used to be. But based on that, and based on some other measures, it looks like overall turnout in Wisconsin was up about 6%, up all the way to, I want to get this number right, up to, where is it? 75.8%, which is pretty good. I mean, that's not pretty good. That's amazing. It's really high turnout. It was 69.5% in 2016 for the presidential election. So, almost 76% in Wisconsin. But the Black vote was relatively stagnant from 2016 to 2020. And that is partly because Wisconsin Black voters were already at a high level. So they didn't have a lot to add. They weren't going to go up a lot anyway, because there was already a lot of them voting. But also, we talked with two political scientists who mentioned that, Milwaukee County, where most of our Black population is, didn't go very much as a whole as a county, only about 4%. And there are significant barriers to people of color voting. Not only economic, social barriers, but also actual legal barriers that were put in place by the Walker administration, which are still disproportionately affecting voters of color. So it's an interesting read. It's an interesting thing to think about. It'll be interesting to see as more data comes in. But that's at the it's on the front page there at Madison365.org. And then one other news story I'll mention that Malik Anderson did. If you know anything about the Madison arts scene, you probably heard of Karen Olivo, who was she was a Broadway star. She won a Tony for a portrayal in the West Side Story adaptation, or not adaptation, revival. And then she was in the original cast of In the Heights with Lin-Manuel Miranda. She's Puerto Rican, and she moved to Madison. Maybe like 10 years ago now. She kind of retired from Broadway and moved to Madison. Then she kind of unretired from Broadway, and she was in Hamilton and Chicago in 2018 for a long time. She was that was like a sit down. It wasn't on tour. It was just in Chicago for a couple of years, and she was Angelica Schuyler in that show, and then she was just in Moulin Rouge in New York. She's up for another Tony for that. But she had a chat with Madison College students, sort of a online chat where she talked about what COVID has done to the arts, to the performing arts, about her activism. Like she and Eden Espinosa is another Broadway actor, founded an organization called Artists for Economic Transparency after learning about some sort of racial injustice in the way people were being paid on Broadway. So she's kind of stepped into this sort of activist role as well. But it was a really interesting conversation that Malik got to be part of, and I would give that a read. That is, again, on the Madison365.org homepage. There's also a story about a Dane Buy Local initiative. If you're local to Dane County, Dane Buy Local is making it easier for you to do your holiday shopping and your shopping in general, local, but also online, because a lot of people may not want to be going out into stores and stuff, especially local, non-essential stores. So they're offering an online way to do that. Check that out as well. Okay, if there are any other questions, I don't see any more questions, so I will leave it at that. Please visit Madison365.org/donate. Every donation you make is tripled. We have $1,000 to go to get to our $7,000 goal. After the $7,000 goal is done, everything is doubled. So if you want your gift to be tripled, better do it today. You give us 10, we get 30. You give us 100, we get 300. It's that simple. Then after we hit that $7,000 goal, everything else after that is doubled. So you still, if you make a gift next week or whenever, you give us 10, we get 20. It's that simple. We're a 501c3 nonprofit newsroom. We are, so your gift is tax deductible. We really rely on community support to make this all happen and keep it free for everyone. So appreciate your time and your attention. I will be back again tomorrow. I will hope to bring you continued good news on the coronavirus front. And if not, we'll talk it through and we'll figure it out. And we'll get through together. Have a great night, and we'll see you tomorrow.
This is 365 Media.